Hello.
Jessie Stevens is in the house. Gosh,
We
you
are
look
back.
absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, I'm
Jessie
excited.
Stevens. Absolutely
What
gorgeous.
is
Emma,
this?
give us a
Breakfast.
wave.
Yeah.
Mia Friedman.
Hi.
And me. We're all here today doing the show. Oh, now I'm not filming anybody. There we go.
Situation normal.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It's what women are talking about on Wednesday, January the 18th. I am Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Friedman.
And I'm Jessie Stevens.
And on today's show, the difference between male and female friendship that's currently going viral, and once it's pointed out to you, you can never unsee it. Jane Fonda is 85. I nearly fell off my chair when I googled her age today. Jane Fonda, my goodness, she is a boomer icon of very serious stature. And she's also right now on the publicity trail for a new movie, which also with other boomer icons, Sally Field, Lily Tomlin, that's called 80 for Brady. And she's also selling an activewear range for H&M. Like, she is freaking busy.
She's not checking her phone at work.
No,
she is not. So while she's doing that, she's jumping on exercise bikes and she's riffing on talk shows. And she's also, because she is no slouch, going viral on TikTok for dropping wisdom bombs like this one about the key differences between male and female friendship.
Women's friendships are very different than men's friendships, and
How
they're
so,
very
you think?
important to our health. Because you guys, you kind of sit side by side and watch sports or cars or women. Women sit facing each other, eye to eye, and they say, I'm in trouble, I need you, can you help me? You know, we're not afraid of being vulnerable.
People immediately picked up, specifically on the bit at the beginning of that where she says that men stand side by side and women look at each other. And lots of people, including Mamamia's own Denny Todorovic, posted about how if you apply this to, say, the Great Australian Barbecue, you will immediately see it. That, and of course we're generalising, men will often stand alongside each other, maybe with the obligatory beer in hand, looking out at the scene and talking kind of sideways. And women will sit or stand in front of each other or in circles where they're making eye contact. Mind blown. Is this true? Does it mean anything? Jessie Stevens.
It's the truest thing I've ever heard. It's one of those I'm annoyed I didn't make this observation because it's just so obvious, and yet I had never thought about it. I see people at that barbecue, I see the men like leaning on a fence and there's 4 in a row and they're not making any eye contact and there's a lot of silence, and then someone gestures at a bird or something. Whereas the women are like literally in a circle, leaning in. Their body language is so encouraging, eye contact. And I think that the female conversation or the body language is just conducive to a different level of intimacy. And it makes me really sad. I was speaking to a male friend over the break who was saying how uninspired he is looking at older men around him. So he was saying, whether it's my dad or my dad's friends, I look at my mum, who just has this massive group of friends, and a friend comes over and they stay up late into the night chatting, just the depth of the conversation. But it is as though men of a certain generation, especially in Australia, are emotionally constipated, and they do not have the language, the vocabulary, the emotional ability to even articulate what they're thinking. And this friend was saying, this is a problem with the "are you okay" conversation, because you can't stand back to back at a barbecue not looking at each other and then have a serious conversation about mental health. It wouldn't go anywhere because you've got no...
I disagree a little bit about that.
There's evolution in this.
I don't agree.
There absolutely 100% is. So if you look at, go back to caveman times, and the men would go out hunting, you can't stand in a circle and look into each other's eyes when you're trying to hunt something. Otherwise you'll get eaten by a dinosaur or something.
But we haven't hunted for a while.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that this is what, you know, if you with these differences between men and women, I often like to think about what's the purpose of it. So that the role of the man would be to be out in the world trying to find food and also protect the tribe. So they would always be looking outwards. Whereas the women, their role is to gather the food and to sit around and exchange information, because that's how they would protect the tribe. So one woman would be like, this leaf over here, if you eat it, you'll vomit. And so then the other woman knows, right, I will make sure that my family don't eat that leaf. And so the women need to be looking out at each other and in this circular shape, because also they're doing things, right? The men are out hunting, which is about looking and, you know, there's action. But the jobs that the women have done, there's a lot of sitting around, like preparing food, taking care of children, breastfeeding. And so you naturally gather in that circle shape that's conducive to communication. I should have been an anthropologist.
Oh my God. I think for a start, I think we're being a bit simplistic about that, but
Why?
But
Mad generalization,
But
but you will see it.
it is a bad generalization. But I think one of the generalizations we've just made there is about that male friendships, because they don't look like female friendships, aren't as good. I don't think that's true. I think, of course, it's true that there is a certain amount of emotional constipation, and that we know that middle-aged men in particular kind of let their friendships fade away in a way that is that women often don't, because they culturally do not put such a high value on them. You know, someone pointed out to me recently, and it's so true, that we're so uncomfortable with heterosexual men being intimate that we invented the term bromance for two men going out for dinner. It's like we're not comfortable with just two men going out for dinner unless we're like, oh, they're having a bromance. You know, it's like, it's such bullshit. Like men have mates too. And in fact, we all know, and sometimes we criticize it a lot, that male mateship is incredibly strong and incredibly important in protecting men's mental health, right? Because that's one of the things that when Jane Fonda said that women's friendships are different and they're very important to our health, so are male friendships. They're incredibly important to men's health. And that often men who are in crisis, that's one of the reasons why, is they don't have that level of vulnerability. But I think that just because it looks different, it doesn't mean it's bad. Anyone who parents a teenager knows that sitting them down and getting them to look in your eye is not the way to get them to talk to you about anything intimate. The way to get them to talk to you about anything intimate is to either sit alongside them or do a task
Drive.
together.
Or in the car.
Yeah, or make something, you know. And where I live I live in the regions now, men's sheds are really popular, right? Because they recognize that there's a mental health crisis among a certain cohort of men. And at men's sheds, they do things. They build stuff and they manage community projects and all that. But the point of it is while they're coming together and doing that thing, they're building connection and they're forming friendships. So I think it is true that once you see this, it's very hard to unsee among a certain tier of men. But I don't think that we should assume that those bonds are less because they look different. I think that if you have a relationship that's built on an action, like doing a thing together, that doesn't make it any less important. My dad is a man of boomer generation. He has really good male friends, and they generally are built around shared interests and passions. So, you know, if they're particularly into a sport,
might be
or
golf,
or
it might be
theatre
going to
or
the
whatever.
cricket.
Yeah. Like that and so they might talk about that a lot and drop in a few personal support things.
My worry is when they don't, and when it becomes about the golf, and that is the...
But Jessie, no one plays golf in silence. And also men just need to use less words than women.
I don't agree
I
with that.
don't agree with that.
And there are
I'm not as men and women are different
There
as
are a lot
Mira
of
is, but-
men I know that wish they could have a different standard of conversation with the men around them, especially the older men around them. And there is research to suggest that young boys, especially who get in their first, if they're heterosexual and they have their first heterosexual relationship, and if that falls apart, that a lot of the devastation they feel is a result of thinking, I have never had conversations of that depth and that caliber because that's not how my mates talk to me. I do reckon it's
think that's
changing,
true.
though. I reckon that it's shifting with the Gen Zs, and I hope that it's,
And I also think that's definitely true. But then they might also tell you that they'll live and die for their friends. It's you know, it's different, and it can be a force for good or a force for bad. That level of loyalty, but I want to know. I just think it's fascinating, that idea of the standing in the line. I will never unsee it.